G'day, art adventurers. It feels like it's been forever. Christopher here. If you don't know me, welcome, and don't forget to click like and subscribe if you are new. And today I'm doing part 2 of the Paletteful Packs Premier unboxing, which involves completing one or more of the following challenge words. We've got owl, green, because I am inevitably green cursed, character on a quest, and retro. I think I successfully do the first 3, but the last one I kind of force a little bit. And I know that you can do them week by week, but I'm just squeezing them all in together. So you can see me starting to work here on a character. I don't think oh no wait, I did in October post one character, an OC that I made. This is a very special character to me though. Welcome or be introduced to Yuri Thornwhistle. Yuri Thornwhistle is the halfling rogue arcane trickster that I play in my D&D group. And I'll talk a little bit about him in a moment, but first I just want to remind you of the materials that I'm using. So in the March Premier Box for Paletteful Packs, there were the Niji watercolors that are pearlescent and shiny. There's 16 of them. The 12 set of the Koi travel colors, watercolors, and you also get a random Derwent watercolor pencil or Inktense pencil. I received a watercolor pencil, Delft Blue, and you also received 2 kinds of paper. The Strathmore mixed media paper. I'm like looking around for it and it's just here. This visual journal, mixed media journal, where you get 24 sheets, 22 sheets, or, as they're fond of saying, 44 pages. But I prefer to think of it in terms of the sheets because often I only work on one side. And so this is the finished piece. And then you also receive postcards, some Strathmore postcards. And I'm just working in the visual journal today. And I think that's it. There's so much. That's a lot. Yeah. So mostly I end up using the Koi watercolors, I would say. But I do use the pearlescents quite a bit trying to get them to work. I just found that they were fairly faint. In fact, I think do almost my first whole layer just with the Niji pearlescents. Then I shift to the mostly using Koi watercolors, and then I go in for finishing touches with the Niji pearlescent colors. The Niji pearlescent colors, although they're shiny and sparkly and nice, once they dry, they're not as shiny as I would have hoped. I think I'm a bit spoilt because I've been using all these awesome metallics lately, and also there are some Daniel Smith Primatech paints that are really, really shiny, and I have some of those, and they're really high quality. And they just weren't as pigmented as I would have liked either. But they're still nice, and it was so great to get those and the Koi watercolors in this set. And the Koi watercolors I hadn't been using for some time. I've been mostly using professional artist grade watercolors lately. So it was kind of fun to go back and experiment with them. I forgot how to do a smooth, clean wash well, and remembered because they are a bit chalky, it's best, as you can see here, that you mix in 2 or more colors, I find, and you can get an interesting mixing and blending of colors that way, and that seems to be a strength of them, that these colors mix together really well, or at least I think they do. And then later on, you'll see me go in to do the outlines, partly with watercolor paints at first from the Koi set, and then using the Derwent watercolor pencil, the Delft Blue. And I like that pencil line work effect, and it creates a cool little character. I can't claim originality for this character completely in terms of this design and the clothes that he's wearing. I'll insert the reference picture that I've based a lot of this from. And if you struggle with creating characters or clothing, it can be a good idea to look at some references and base your character from those references, especially when you're first learning character design. I feel like I'm learning character design I feel confident when I'm painting animals or something like that in watercolor. But if I'm designing a character, when it comes to costumes and clothing and how things will look, I often rely on references. And then, as you can compare to what I've finished with, I'll tweak things. So it still ends up being an original piece of work, but it'll be based on reference. So this is Yuri Thornwhistle, and as I said, he's a halfling, which is very much like a hobbit from Lord of the Rings, and he's a rogue. He started off his early life as a thief. The character background is that his family ran a bakery in a small village, but to get by, he would steal some flour and other materials occasionally from the elven wagons that would pass through town on their way to the city, and that would help keep the family stocked up in the supplies that they were needing. Otherwise, they would have probably starved. And then sadly, in terms of the character background, a disease swept through the village and killed his parents, and only he and his sister and a few other members of the town survived. And then after that disaster, Yuri decided to join a delve team. And a delve team is a team that goes underground. They're transported to subterranean caverns where all sorts of creatures lie. It used to be very much the domain of dwarves, but about 2,000 years ago, there was a great war, and the Elven Empire ended up wiping out the dwarves. They were fearful of dwarven technology and looked at it more and more as an abomination. Probably the aristocracy of the elves thought that they were being threatened by the increasing power of dwarves and acted to wipe them out before they could be harmed. And so he joined a delve team with some other adventurers. Maybe I'll do character drawings for them as time goes on. And along the way, Yuri's begun to magically steal spells from party members, copying their magic to some limited degree, and also just recently learning his own original spells for the first time. In his hand, he's holding this globe. It's called a drift globe. It's one of the magical items that he's picked up along the way, and it's very lucky, very fortunate, because Yuri's, I think, the only member of the party that can't see in the dark or dimness of the Underdark, where all these caverns are. And by the way, this whole world is the imaginings of our DM, Ben, so I can't claim credit for that. All I can claim credit for is Yuri and the character of Yuri. But the rich world that we're campaigning in and having adventures in Dungeons and Dragons, that belongs to the imaginings of our DM. So this drift globe, it produces light, either dim light or full daylight as bright as the sun. And that is extremely handy because, as I said, Yuri's the only one that can't see in the darkness, and he would find things very difficult without that. Although, also recently, as you can see on his shoulder, Yuri's discovered a spell to create a familiar, a magical fae that appears in the form of a glowing, fiery owl. Her name is Owlivia Hootin John, and she's able to see in the dark, and Yuri can see through her eyes, so that's also fortunate in a pinch. And of course, she can fly, and that allows Yuri to get a bird's eye view and to scope out things before the party might find themselves in terrible danger. Although we end up in terrible danger quite frequently anyway. So if you are also a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, hopefully I haven't bored you with over-explaining things. And if you haven't tried playing Dungeons and Dragons before, super recommend it. It's a super fun time, and it's just great to create a world with friends and go on adventures together. And if you're like me and you move somewhere new and you don't have friends nearby, maybe think about joining a team with strangers and make friends that way. That's what I've done. So I hope that you've enjoyed getting to know Yuri Thornwhistle, and seeing me put my Paletteful Packs Premier Pack for March to good use. I'll see you guys soon for another art adventure. Bye.